It seems that everyone thinks Meghan and Harry are completely imprisoned and facing many difficulties, especially financially, after leaving the royal family. But is that really true? We're going to answer all of that in this video. Welcome back to Kate Middleton and the Queen YouTube channel. It's been 4 years since they left the royal family, and finally, Harry and Meghan Markle's net worth has been revealed. So the two of them have a combined net worth of somewhere around £48 million, even after they stepped back from their royal duties back in 2020 and had to repay the public money used for renovating Frogmore Cottage. Okay, so let's try to explain how they have that much money. After leaving the royal family, Harry and Meghan secured some really good deals, like the deal with Netflix that's reportedly worth somewhere around £80 million, and then that £17 million advance from the publisher Penguin Random House for a 4-book deal, and that includes Spare. And then, of course, we've got Spotify, we've got Archetypes podcast. It is hard to believe, though, that the two of them are actually worth that much. But it doesn't really matter how much money they're worth on paper. They keep on whining about the cost of maintaining security. Now, if £48 million is their starting point, they've got more than enough money to pay their own way in life. And we know every single time they appear in public, they're being paid. I mean, they have built charities such as Invictus Games for their travel, their accommodation, the meals, the clothes, and the jewelry for Meghan Markle. And I'm guessing there's an average appearance fee that we'd be horrified to know about. And it doesn't help the charity, it's more of a burden, actually. The charity is supposed to be for wounded war veterans, but if their books were made public, the costs, I would think, exceed everything that's brought in. It is time for them to find a different patron. Harry and Meghan don't care about the foundation. We also need to remember that when the gruesome twosome were working royals, they only worked a few months every year because Harry claimed that the camera shutter sound would trigger his anxiety. But now look at the two of them. I mean, they call the paparazzi to go take pictures of them wherever they go. I think Meghan Markle has that grid on speed dial. And apparently, Harry has gotten over his problems with hearing the camera flash shutter. And when the Wales kids start out in public life, these two are just going to become another Edward and Wallace. We can already see some similarities. The only goal Meghan has in life, though, is to get a lot of money and become famous. And back to this figure, I'm not sure that I even believe it. Where did this amount come from? I mean, does anybody know the Netflix deal or Spotify? I think it's just assumptions. I think people are just guesstimating. I mean, the figures published are varying a lot. And who even cares? We're not interested in Harry and Meghan, and we don't care if they or only Harry shows up for Invictus. I think most people in Britain wish that they would never come back again. So let's not get overexcited here. And what about this American Riviera orchard? When is that business ever actually going to start? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those pro-Meghan PR stories that have originated from Meghan Markle's agency or her paid employees in an attempt to make her and Harry look good and not like they're desperate for money like they really are. There's simply no proof that this information is even right. And what success are they talking about? Becoming the most despised person in the world, I don't believe is a real symbol of success. Now, if we consider success to be monetary value only, I'm not even sure that's going to be a lasting success because the two of them love to spend money. And also, their contracts are not up yet, but they haven't fulfilled any of them. So they have not gotten the full amount promised in those contracts because they were supposed to put in some work to get that money. They might even have to pay some of the money back, especially to the publisher. I mean, they've only gotten 1 book out, and Netflix, I think, is still waiting. Now, Spotify already gave up on the two grifters. Good for them. It looks like Spotify is by far the most intelligent company they've been working with. And their poor invisible kids, if they are real, they don't have any contact with any members of their family, except for, of course, their ex-con grandma, Doria. They don't know their aunts, their uncles, their cousins. They don't know anybody. You know as well as I do, money cannot buy happiness. In fact, more money, more problems is more accurate. So fine, let them hold on to their money as long as they stay away from the UK. And if Harry needs to come back for any reason, there shouldn't be any discussion whatsoever about his not paying for his own security. Obviously, that's on him. And I don't think Meghan really understood Harry's financial situation as the younger son of the monarch. I'm sure it was quite a surprise for her to realize that Harry was not going to be inheriting as much money as William did when the late Queen passed away. The share of money that Harry inherited from his mother and from his grandmother's estate wasn't so much in the scheme of things after death duties, and the way Meghan Markle spends, it's never going to be enough. Another thing I'm very skeptical about is that house in Montecito. Do they really even live there, or are they just renting it for PR purposes? And do they have any real children to protect? Well, in any event, their lifestyle is incredibly expensive. Their costs are out of this world. They're also paying so much money to try to keep up with the Joneses. They're trying to keep up with this lifestyle that may or may not even be real. And the thing is, they don't have any legitimate business interests. So without any income coming in, I don't see how they're going to continue paying all this money out. So I really don't believe that they got all this money. I think the amount Netflix paid was a production budget, and only some of it was actually paid out. And costs I know were covered. So I think after costs were covered, they didn't get all that much money. It would only have been paid out project by project. And just think about it. What have they produced? Essentially nothing except for their own wine fest all about themselves. And the Spotify contract was canceled after some very dull and self-serving podcast episodes were produced by Meghan. Now, if they really do have so much money, then why do they want the British public, many of whom are living in poverty right now, to pay for their personal security bill? This just sounds like another puff piece coming from WME to keep their names in the media. So it looks to me like Harry and Meghan are a big fan of using other people's money. They're using credit because they can't pay for their stuff up front and they want to appear more wealthy than they really are. But still, it's credit, and so it's going to incur interest and they're going to get in more debt in the long run. This is a trap that many people fall into. Many people get themselves over their heads in debt, and I think this is what we're seeing here. Now, will the grifters ever repay this debt? Probably not. It's obvious, though, they are living way beyond their means. They might be millionaires, sure, but they're living like a couple of billionaires, and supposedly they only own like 10 or 20% of that Montecito McMansion, and the mortgage payments are huge. Did they get the full amount from Spotify? I don't think so, because they didn't produce all that much content, and let's remember that Spotify executive called them grifters. And I would think they didn't get any more money for that book because the publishers ended up having to take a loss. So Netflix, I would assume, only pays for work that has actually been produced. But not much has happened over the past 4 years or so. The fact is, Harry is worth essentially nothing in assets, and he was only living in expectation of income to come from his family, which of course has stopped. It is William who is responsible for managing and getting the income from the very rich Duchy of Cornwall. Harry has no access to that. And I would guess that 48 million figure probably includes some non-liquid assets like their home in Montecito, but over the past few years that has proven to be unmarketable, and it couldn't get any interest in spite of the fact that it was listed. How many times have we heard that they're trying to move, but they never do? Now, the recent attempt to sell luxury goods is going to lose them even more money. Even if the information is true, he has that amount of money, and that's not a massive net worth. That's actually kind of pathetic compared to their billionaire neighbors. But see, they look down on the poor ex-royals. Most of them have probably never even heard of Harry before he moved there. And if they really do have access to all that money, why are they still working to pay off Frogmore? And why do they have a mortgage on that McMansion? I think they are in a lot of debt, and they're just waiting for the money to come in when Harry turns 40, but it's not going to happen. Meghan Markle is going to have spent that money before Harry ever sees a dime of it. Another thing about their millions, some of it just inherited now from his mother, it was all from previous amounts paid, including Meghan's subsidiaries from suits. That's fine, whatever, but it's their future that they should be worried about. There is no real money-making contract to ensure them a steady income. What sounds like impossible amounts to most of us. What Harry and Meghan have, it could be gone in a few years the way they spend money on themselves, the way they fly around in private jets. Harry and Meghan are truly living in a house of cards. All right, so I'm going to present you with some evidence so that you'll see why I don't really believe this is really how much they're worth. All right, so number one, their home cost just under $15 million, but it carries a $9.5 million mortgage. So the equity in that property is only about $5.4 million. Number two, that Netflix figure was speculation predicated upon them actually producing content. And I'm not talking about one successful show, I'm talking about a few different profit generating shows a year for the 5 years of the contract. Harry and Meghan got an advance against future earnings, perhaps 10% of the contract amount to get started. But so far, they have only produced one show that could have made any money whatsoever for Netflix. So number three, the Spotify deal might have been worth $20 million, but it was the same pay for performance as Netflix, and they left at least $15 million behind when Spotify canceled the contract. And then number four, the advance that Harry received for his book was a few years ago. He's not going to make another penny until the publisher covers all its expenses. Number five, just because Meghan might have made as much as $50,000 per episode on Suits, it doesn't mean that she's worth anywhere close to that $5 million figure because she had to pay taxes, she had to pay agents' fees, and she had to pay union dues out of each check she got. Additionally, much of what is attributed as making up her net worth is considered intangible assets, and they are heavily discounted, if not totally disregarded, when doing an analysis of somebody's net worth because it's very hard at best to even assess an objective value to these assets. Well, folks, that is our analysis and commentary on the subject of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's net worth revealed 4 years after leaving the royal family. How do you feel about the information that Harry and Meghan own a huge fortune? Please leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support our channel. Goodbye, and I'll see you again in other videos from Kate Middleton and the Queen YouTube channel.